that devastating fire that ripped through a residential building in Marshalltown, leaving the death toll we now have confirmed 63 people dead and almost 50 others are receiving treatment in hospital. We've spoken to people on the scene who are looking for loved ones. We've also spoken to a mother who has told our reporter Ziniko Mhlaba that she lost her 2-year-old child in that fire and that her 5-year-old is receiving treatment in hospital this morning. And there will be many, many other stories exactly like that. Emergency services still combing through the scene as we speak. We understand there has been a statement from the Johannesburg Mayor, Kabelo Gwamanda. He says he'll be arriving on the scene at around 9:30 this morning. We're also told that Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is also en route there. We've gotten some information from Gift of the Givers. Team members this morning will be helping firefighters just with the kind of sustenance that they will need in the wake of the kind of work that they need to do. The statement from the organization says Gift of the Givers will also support the city of Johannesburg to see how best they can assist the victims once the fire is under control and once alternative accommodation has been sourced. These are live pictures coming to you from various parts of the surrounding areas of that building. On the left-hand side, you can still see that the building is still bellowing smoke as emergency services continue to comb through the remains of the scene there. And then on the right-hand side, that's where we find our reporter Ziniko Mhlaba, who's trying to speak to a whole range of people who have gathered there. Some of them have survived this tragedy. Others are looking for their loved ones. Ayanda, let's bring you into the conversation. You know, the difficult thing this morning, one of the many difficult things this morning, I suppose, will now be for people who think that they have lost loved ones in a context where this is a fire tragedy. It's going to take time, and the answers that many people who have lost loved ones this morning will not be forthcoming for some time.
Absolutely, and just a proviso, the details I'm about to share are quite graphic. What further complicates the situation, Michelle, is that the bodies we've been able to see emerge from the building behind me are going to be incredibly difficult to identify. I can't think of a more euphemistic way of putting it. Those are bodies that have really possibly been in contact, direct contact with some of the flames, and if what we've seen is anything to go by the time these family members you've spoken about are able to engage with the remains, there's going to be that incredibly difficult task of trying to find just something that resembles their own loved ones, and that will be able to, I suppose, give them the kind of assurance that indeed the remains they're dealing with are those of their own relative. I mean, you compound that with the many other issues that typically come to the fore in a story like this. We've spoken for weeks, months, if not years, about the DNA backlog in a country like ours. If it's going to take DNA tests for some of these relatives to identify their loved ones, it's going to be incredibly difficult because they're going to have to wait for quite some time. But some activity taking place behind me, and in fact Robert Mhlaba, who's been a very busy man, is also just approached as we try hopefully get you a more consolidated figure of how things are looking. And as we do that, he's snatched by some of his colleagues who I imagine have a whole lot more pressing information to share with him. I had mentioned earlier as well that the doors seem to have been closed since we've went on air. We've actually been able to witness another body emerge there, so that death toll at 63 possibly going to continue to increase. But once again, Ziniko Mhlaba is helping me keep a close eye on the story, in fact watching it from a different vantage point. And Ziniko, you've heard devastating stories from people who are brave enough, strong enough to speak on camera. There are a whole lot more harrowing stories that I imagine we can't bring to our viewers because people just can't bring themselves to even begin to describe what they saw.
Yes, and actually one of the things that the city of Johannesburg is known for is being a home to people from across the entire continent, from Nigeria, Egypt, Somalia, and others from our neighboring countries, Zimbabwe and Lesotho. So when you talk about such tragedies, you'll understand that every person from across our borders can also be affected. And actually, one of the people on our side right now, we've got people who are not necessarily from South Africa, but who are also residing in that particular building. We've also been affected. Some of them have lost their loved ones. The lady we spoke to earlier on, who said Simpi, was just sharing a very painful story. But let's get a sense of how many other people are affected by this and how this tragedy has affected them. Actually, let me speak to Uput here, my brother. Thank you very much for your time. Talk to us about your experience overnight. What happened and how has this fire affected you as you are residing in that particular building?
Okay, thanks so much. When during the night, we just hear the people's, they just crying and the noise too much. When we open the windows, then we just see the fires of faces. You see, after that, because our arms fall, then other people, when they want to come down, then the fire was full on the floor, first floor. Then other people, they lose their lives. Even maybe like even my sisters, almost 3 or 4 my sisters, I'm losing now the date. You see, and I just hit the window and to fall down. So is that thing is what I can explain for now. But I don't know what happens because too many people they saw it. Yeah. But one thing what I saw it is that one.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, my brother. A gentleman speaking about having to jump from one floor to the other, and in that process they get injured. They got injured. And I've got a gentleman here who's also affected by that tragedy. This gentleman was also residing in this particular residency, that building which was engulfed by fire. As you can see, he's badly injured. He will try to get emergency services to come and assist him. You can see that his leg is broken to some extent. We found him here being carried by his fellow brothers. He's in great pain, Ayanda, and actually I think it's a matter of emergency. So let's cross back to you, Ayanda. You've got Robert Mhlaba on your side. As you share with us what Mhlaba will give us in terms of the update, we'll try to assist this gentleman with ensuring that emergency services are able to come through to him and assist him. So it's back to you, Ayanda, with Robert on that side.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ziniko. And he's an incredibly busy man, so we'll jump straight into it and speak to Robert Mhlaba, who's once again with us here at the scene of this incredibly devastating story. The number has completely taken everybody by surprise. The last we received an update was at 63. What are you able to tell us now?
Yeah, we are now on 64 fatalities, which we managed to recover out there. Of course, the number might still increase, due to the nature of the area where we are recovering these bodies. So as I said earlier on, the area is actually an informal area where there's partitions, so the risk of one being trapped there is very much high. But we want to remove any uncertainty by making sure that we clear floor by floor to make sure that we can be able to assist the affected families to find closure, and also make sure that all the people or the bodies are accounted for. So the 43 people who were injured were transported to various health care facilities within the city of Johannesburg. Right now, I would say that is the latest development. Of course, our other stakeholders are here, disaster management, the chaplaincy, to conducting trauma counseling to our affected residents here, and then also other city stakeholders like social development, human development. They will be assisting the affected residents.
Sure. And what are you able to tell us about the state of those who've been injured? I think much of the attention, and maybe it's because of where we are, has been on the people who are emerging there, the bodies that you are able to extract from the building itself. What's the state of those who are now lying in hospital?
Yeah, out of those 43 people who were injured, mostly they suffered smoke inhalation. Some they receive minor to moderate injuries. Most of them, they are walking patients. We're hoping that most of them, they will be maybe discharged by today or tomorrow. That's our hope. But our focus right now is to make sure that we recover all the outstanding bodies which might still be trapped inside. Also, we do have a challenge of people wanting to moving into the building. So we're discouraging, our residents who are residing in the area to go back there, because we don't know.
There are people even now who are trying to get back inside.
Yes, who are trying to get back inside the building. So we're saying no, they need to refrain from that, because we don't know about the structural integrity of the building. It might be dangerous for them to go back in there. So that is where we are at this stage.
Yeah. Occasionally we've seen some of your colleagues also still pour water over the building itself, smoke still billowing from some of the floors there. Is there a risk of, reignition of the fire?
Yes, because of the debris which are there. Hence we're conducting what we call damping down, extinguishing those hot spots, and also making sure that there's no bodies which will still recover in the area. So that is where we are now. So we're hoping that as soon as we are done with that process, we will be able to hand over the incident to South African Police Service to continue with their work.
Yeah. It might be a bit early to give us an answer now, but when do you expect to do that from? I mean, when you and I spoke off air or off camera, you mentioned that you're going to be here the whole day. What does that mean for when you reckon you can finally hand over the scene?
Yeah, we our work we work unusual hours, so we don't know. We cannot really confirm, but we are prepared to do what we can do, because what is important now is to make sure that we recover all the outstanding bodies which might still be trapped. The issue of us recovering those people still alive is very slim. We have communicated that information to the affected resident who might still have, their missing loved ones. So they accept that, they understand that right now our mission is to make sure that we recover those outstanding bodies and assist them to find closure.
Robert Mhlaba, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate it. Robert Mhlaba, EMS spokesperson, a man very much in demand at this hour, and understandably he is, if you like, the individual through whom a lot of this information has been centralized. And there you have it, yet another update, another 64 is now the death toll, at least from what Robert has been able to tell us, and that is probably that body I mentioned that emerged as you and I were speaking. You'll forgive me, there's a lot of foiling and scrambling taking place, and that's largely because the situation is moving quite fluidly. I understand, of course, that time might be not on our side, but I have to take the opportunity now to take the MMC, who's also just joined us here. He's been very vocal in some instances about what it will take sometimes to make Johannesburg safer. MC Nyathi, thanks very much indeed. You're now live also on Newzroom Afrika as we try to get closer. Your initial thoughts, really devastating, the death toll now at 64.
I'm sort of traumatized. It's a bad scene. There are bent bodies beyond the recognition. That site, I've never seen that site before. 64 of them have confirmed to be dead. Cause of fire, the guys are still going to be checking out into what's happening. The probable causes is your candles. Mother said by illegal, this connection of the building here. And then they said one of the things that really was an issue was that inside the building itself, looks as if there was a gate which was closed, so people could not get out. So we saw a lot, when the firefighters went inside, a lot of people who came from the floor, they actually got stashed onto the gate which was closed. I think it was a security gate, because internally, these buildings, if you remember, I was doing the operation Manje and Namhlanje inside. When we came out with the EMS, we've declared them, most of them, that they are not safe. The EMS have actually closed them, many of them. But as you know, that we're the problem in terms of, the human rights, in terms where do we actually going to put those people. So in terms of the transit accommodation to put these people so that these buildings can be renovated and all of that is still an issue. But the main reason here that there's a high death toll of the people is a lot of partitions and the gates in between where people are. They say people, they wanted to really scream and they should get out, but they could not. Many bent bodies were found actually stashed on that gate. At this bottom here on the level floor, also there's people, they've actually had an informal settlement sort of. You had a lot of people that have built using like high flammable material, your wood and then all of that. So that is an issue. So yes, on our side we've got the team which is coming in. The disaster is here, and so we're gonna give them the mattresses and all of that, and then also the housing. I see that it's here as well. meaning that we are going to get them the alternative accommodation at this point in time. Yes, so that is what is happening. It's a very traumatic. I've never seen bodies like that bent beyond some recognition. There were also kids that were there as well. I think there's a 12-month-old kid that actually got bent out. It's a very sad scene. I think after this, there is a team that was put up by the CM and the mayor just to deal with these things as well. So I'm just calling all the players, the Seri, let us come together and then let us deal with this thing decisively so that we're able to take the people and put them somewhere. It cannot be maybe we have a transit accommodation, we don't have it somewhere, let's build something, let's get all this building which are like that. The other one which might actually catch fire is the one in the next day. About, I don't know how many councillors, the councillor here, there are about three or four of them that are close to here, that they can actually catch fire as well. So there are many of them in the city. I think there's a list through the GFIT, there's a list of them that they are dark, there's no water, they've actually been declared unsafe. They need to be closed with immediate effect. And one of the things I proposed to SERI and all the other NGOs which are coming in, I said to them, let us do a floor by floor, if it needs be, to renovate and ensure that these buildings are compliant with the EMS. There's a list of them. You're looking at about thousands plus of these buildings here hijacked. Thank you.
MMC, thanks very much indeed. All right, that's where we're going to try leave it as the AM report team, and I think it's very important, of course, to bring you that sentiment at the very least, as I also try and make my way out. You'll forgive just the instability of our shot. But difficult to try summate what's been easily one of the most devastating mornings, certainly not only for us journalists, but some of those who are responding to what's taken place there. 64 is the death toll so far, upwards of 40 people being treated. A story nowhere near over.
Ayanda, Nyathi, my co-anchor, is live to us there on the scene of that devastating fire, alongside our reporter Ziniko and Mhlaba, our team on the ground, having all of the angles covered for you as we try to keep track of the devastation that's unfolding there.